In lesson 11.4, we're going to subtract integers now. In 11.3, we did all the adding. Now we're going to subtract. Well, there's one key idea here. When you're subtracting, you're really going to add the opposite. Okay, and once you add the opposite, then you follow the rules that we just talked about in 11.3. Okay, so if they have the same signs, you add and keep the sign. If they have opposite signs, you subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. But the whole trick to this is that first you have to add the opposite. So 10 minus 6 is going to really be, I'm going to add the opposite. So it's going to be 10 plus negative 6, which now they have opposite signs, so I subtract the numbers. 10 minus 6 is 4. The bigger number was positive, so my answer is positive. Negative 10 minus 6 becomes add the opposite. Now, they're both negative numbers, so I add them. 10 plus 6 is 16. Since they're both negative, my answer is negative. 10 minus negative 6, I add the opposite, and now it's just 10 plus positive 6, which is a positive 16. And negative 10 minus negative 6 becomes plus a positive 6. Opposite signs, so I subtract. And the bigger number was negative, so my answer is negative. Okay, so the whole trick is adding the opposite of the second number, the opposite sign. And then it's the same thing that we just did in 11.3. So let's try some examples here. Okay, again, they're going to do the whole number line thing. We're doing 4 minus negative 4. So you're going to move forward 4 from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. You come over here. Then for subtraction, you're going to turn around. Okay, when we added, we stayed facing the positive direction, so now the guy's facing the other way. Then, because it's a negative 4, you're going to move back 4 units. So from the 4, now the guy goes backwards 4 units, and he stops at 8. This is a little confusing. But if I look at it as 4 minus negative 4, I want to change subtraction to add the opposite. Now it's just 4 plus 4, which I know is 8. And that's what we got anyway. So the rules make subtraction a little bit easier than the number line. So let's scroll down and look at the examples here without a number line. Find each difference, and difference just means to subtract. So negative 5 minus negative 7, I'm going to add the opposite. And now, you add the opposite, made it positive 7. Now, because they have opposite signs, I subtract. I get 2. The bigger number was positive, so my answer is positive 2. Negative 9 minus 6 is really negative 9 plus a negative 6. Now, they have the same signs. I added the opposite, negative 6. Same sign, so I add my numbers to get 15. And if both numbers are negative, my answer is also negative. Okay. One more example. We have a word problem. Okay. Juan, where'd it go? Okay. Juan owes his sister $14. She told him to subtract $8 of what he owes if he feeds the dog. Write an integer to show how much money Juan will owe if he feeds the dog. So this is really what they're asking you to do. And they started with negative 14 because he owes her $14. So Juan is already starting $14 in debt. Then he's going to subtract $8 of what he owes, which means take off 8 of those negative dollars. And we put the parentheses so that we can see that those are two separate negative signs, one subtraction, one negative. And again, with subtracting, you add the opposite, so it becomes negative 14 plus positive 8. And then when the signs are opposite, I have a negative number and a positive number. I subtract. 14 minus 8 is 6. And you keep the sign of the bigger number, which was negative. So the integer negative 6 shows that Juan will owe his sister $6. Alright, so now you're going to try the quick checks. Remember that subtraction, the whole trick to subtraction is to add the opposite. Okay, and once you do that, then follow your addition rules to see if your answer is positive or negative and if you add or subtract your numbers. So try those quick checks and we'll check your work in class.